Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Conversation for Our Generation. My name is Nick Jamel, the creator and the host of the podcast here and the blog conversationforourgeneration.com, where we are solving the problems of today with the wisdom of the past. And today we're going to be doing a book review on Letter to a Suffering Church by Bishop Robert Barron, which for me was a really impactful book on just finding a way to move past some of the problems that the Catholic Church has had and look forward and find ways to fix, and the church praying for it, and also in a large way fix the things in the culture that have led to this type of the pervasiveness of this type of problem. And so I know that the abuse scandal was a huge obstacle for me, and I felt as though I couldn't trust the church or the pastors who were supposed to be shepherding me and the rest of the people in the church, and it was a betrayal. And despite all this, I think that I found a way to kind of separate the sins of some of the people in the church from the mission that they're pursuing and see the mission for pure and good and what it is. And this book really helped me out. So I want to talk a little bit about that today and give you guys a little bit of my thoughts on it. And so the quote of the day today is one from Bishop Robert Barron, and it's actually from Letter to a Suffering Church. He says, "The Emperor Napoleon is said to have confronted Cardinal Consalvi, the Secretary of State to Pope Pius VII, saying that he, Napoleon, would destroy the church, to which the Cardinal deftly responded, 'Oh my, little man, you think you're going to succeed in accomplishing what centuries of priests and bishops have tried and failed to do?'" And I like this quote because it's snappy, it's clever, and it's kind of true. The reason why the church has had so many trials and still stood is not because of how good the bishops are at any given time, or the priests, or the laity for that matter. The reason why is because it's ordained and given to this world by God. And there's another one. There's a joke that I heard that's very similar to this, where a priest was trying to convert a Jewish man to Catholicism in his area in France, which was super Catholic at the time, medieval times, but it's a very good Catholic, rich area, not rich, but like spiritually rich. And the Jewish man was going to Rome for business. And in the process, the priest was like, "No, I got to convert him before he goes to Rome. He can't see the corruption that's going on, right? In like the Renaissance, rather, not medieval, Renaissance church." And so he can't convert him in time. The Jewish man goes to Rome and comes back to the priest, and the priest is like, "I've lost him. He's done." And the Jewish man says, "Father, I need to become Catholic." And the priest is shocked. He says, "Why?" And the Jewish man goes, "Well, because if any business that I ran, like the Catholic Church, I'd be out of business in 3 days. The fact that you're still here after 1,500 years, you must be divinely ordained." And so it's, again, Catholic joke, not necessarily the funniest thing ever for most people, but I think that there's something true to that despite all of that, the Catholic Church is a huge force for good, and I think that that's a very positive thing. And so I want to talk a little bit about the reason, like I said, for this book review is Bishop Robert Barron's work has really impacted my thoughts and my feelings on this subject. And because of that, I think that this book will really help Catholics and non-Catholics alike understand the abuse scandal, dispels some myths about it, because I think, and he doesn't make any excuses by any means, but I am going to sit here and say that the Catholic Church's record on this, and the fact that this is happening from the priests and from the bishops, is atrocious, and it is just disgusting. And any one of the people who are involved in this should face real charges and should face spiritual penalties. I believe that wholeheartedly. I mean, we laicized a cardinal for the first time in church history, or at least the first time in a very, very long time. So drastic measures have been taken in some respects, but there's also a lot more abuse going on outside of the church. And I think that that's something that our culture is failing to grapple with. I mean, we look at just the Jeffrey Epstein stuff and all of how much of DC and princes and all these powerful leaders, people in Hollywood, all these people are abusing children left and right, and we ignore it for a small fraction of abuse from the Catholic Church. And I think that there's a greater degree of betrayal from your priests and those people that should be guiding you. But there's also a lot of horrible, horrible things happening on the side of the secular society. And I think that we can't ignore that. This isn't an isolated incident. This happened within the context of a culture that is sexually crazed. And I think that Bishop Robert Barron does a good job of pointing out that when this really was coming up and this was becoming a problem, it was happening in the culture. The culture was changing as well alongside the bad spiritual direction, bad seminary direction, and all sorts of things that happened in the church that fell down and were being corrupted. That happened at the same time that the culture was turning this way. And so it's not just that this came out ex nihilo out of nowhere. It arose in a cultural context. And so I think that that's an important thing to recognize. And he also gives a lot of history on former scandals that have come through the church. Obviously, he speaks on the scandals of indulgence. He speaks on some of the other ones. And the fact that it was the prayers of the laity, the advocation of the laity to good bishops and to good priests to stand up and strengthening them against their peers, that is a huge part of what helped change the way that they approach things. And I think that's important to recognize. And so I think if you want a book that doesn't hold back, doesn't make excuses, doesn't cast, throw the blame on someone else, but really gives you a honest look at the situation, I think this is a great one for you. And the reason that I'm bringing it out now is that there are just a lot of people who enjoy being critical of the church, and many of these people make money from that critical lens. I think that, I'm just looking at what's happening with Amy Coney Barrett right now. Sorry, it's obvious that there is an anti-Catholic dogma, and especially of the people who actually believe the faith, especially of the people who practice their faith. Those are the people who get attacked. And so I think that this book is something for those who are feeling discouraged, watching that, feeling discouraged with all of the crazy things going on. I think that this is, regardless of what you think on the abuse scandal and even regardless of the notes that it takes on the abuse scandal, I think it is still a good message for a suffering church, no matter what. And I think that we are a church that are kind of a white martyr or whatever it is, we're not having our blood shed in the streets, but we are being attacked constantly, verbally, and being, denigrated and being slandered and having detraction put out there on us constantly. And I think that it's good to find some solace in, and I think this book can help with that. And so the last thing I like about this book is that it offers solutions. I think that there's a lot of people, especially in the Catholic world, who just want to yell and blame and say this person, call names and all that stuff. And I don't like that, because here at the Conversation for Our Generation, we are solving today's problems with the wisdom of the past. And this book takes you to another point where there was something similar that happened, and it shows you how we got out of it. And so we have a solution to this problem. And I think that it's good to check this book out, see what that solution is, and start implementing it in our lives. And it's something that, having been a year since I read it, I think I might this Advent go back and read it again, just because I think it's something that's important to keep in mind and just keep alive in our hearts, is that there is a solution, that we are making a lot of changes. We have made a lot of changes to prevent the abuses, and especially the ongoing abuses, but we can always still do more to really purify and really ask for the church to be enriched spiritually and to be able to reach more and more people. So definitely check out Letter to a Suffering Church. Definitely go. And if you're listening to this podcast, I am also posting this video to YouTube as well. So you can go to subscribe to the YouTube channel, just search Conversation for Our Generation on YouTube and you'll find me. You can go to Twitter at @ConOfOurGen and Facebook.com/Conversation for Our Generation to find more. And if you're any of those other places and you're seeing this, go to conversationforourgeneration.com and check out more of what I got going on. And conversationforourgeneration.com/podcast is where you can subscribe to the podcast. Anywhere that you find yours, it'll be there for you. So definitely check it out. If you're listening, leave a good rating and review. That really helps. And again, if you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button in the top or wherever it is. I don't actually know where to point, but definitely check that out and follow me, all those places, to keep up with the Conversation for Our Generation. Let's get the dialogue going. I'll talk to you next week.